Alright, welcome back. This week you just have me. Both Zach and Jay are busy with school and other things going on in their lives. So I'm gonna just quickly hop on here and do a quick episode. We're gonna talk about the first week in the league, how Vegas has looked, taking a look at Calgary finally breaking the Anaheim curse, see how long that goes. And the fact that Jagr has now signed with the Flames. So to start off with, I know Jay was super excited about this. Jaromir Jagr signed a 1-year deal with the Calgary Flames. It was valued at, take a look, valued at $2 million, so it's a $1 million cap hit and a possibility for $1 million in bonuses. So, and he said that this is going to be his last year. So the Traveling Jagrs get another addition to their group. And we get to see another year of Jagr. Moving on from that, the Vegas Golden Knights are off to the best start of any expansion team in the NHL history. They have a current record of... That's not the right app. They currently have a 3-0 record. Pretty dominant performance the other night against Arizona. Let's take a look at their stats. Get there. Arizona just sent down one of their considered to be their top prospect, Dylan Strome, which I think is an interesting move, considering some of the people they still have up on their roster. I wouldn't expect that from them. I don't think that your Lawson Krauses are really that much better than Strome, but I guess that's their choice. I think they want to see some more development from him before they get him up, see how he does in the AHL. But yeah, I don't think that your Lawson Krauses are really any better. Actually, I think Dylan Strome would be better than Lawson Krause, but that's what the Coyotes have gone with, considering the fact that Krause really didn't perform that well for them last year. We'll see how that works for the Coyotes, though, going into this year. Not that anyone expects a whole lot from them anyways. But the Golden Knights, they currently have a total of 9 goals for, 4 goals against. They have 100 shots for them, 107 against, so doing pretty well in that. The penalty kill has done really well so far. Goaltending has been solid. And yeah, they've looked good. Their home opener was awesome to watch, to see how they honored, the first responders from the horrible thing that happened in Vegas. It was a great way, and it was the right way for them to open the season. And it's just such a great story for them to then go in and win that game and be so dominant within the game. I mean, those 4 goals were so awesome. Yeah, and I can't wait to see how Vegas continues. I don't know how long they'll manage to keep up this pace. I still think they're an interesting team. I still think that some of their selections in the draft lottery could come back to bite them, because they have so many defensemen, and at this point I think everyone in the league knows it, so they've kind of lost all the power they had after they made those choices, and you could see it in the fact that they really haven't managed to move any of them, and really they have way too many defense on their roster. Also the fact that picked up Malcolm Subban and ended up trading Calvin Pickard to the Leafs. It's an interesting choice. I don't think it's your best decision. Fleury's really not signed for that much longer. I think he's only signed for another season after this one, and I don't personally believe that Malcolm Subban is going to be ready to take over as your starting goaltender after Marc-Andre Fleury is done. So it becomes a question of, who do you have to take over? And before you had Calvin Pickard, that was pretty much guaranteed solid guy. And even though he struggled as a starting goalie in the past, to be fair, it was for the horrible Colorado Avalanche. It's a weird move, and I think that could really come back to bite them in the future. Good pickup for the Leafs, though, getting him. He'll do well for them. They can always use some more solid goaltending in the back. Since the Leafs aren't the greatest defensive team, having a ton of young scorers, having that solid goaltender in the back is what they really need. Speaking of solid goaltenders, Zach's favorite team, the Montreal Canadiens, have not been off to the greatest start this year. They've got the best Corsi, I believe, in the league so far, but it hasn't really shown in their games at this point. They are currently 1-3 in their first 4 games. Not what you want to see, not a really hopeful sign as someone who is sitting there watching their team not do so well. That start to the season can really set the tone. Hopefully they can turn it around, though. Just haven't been scoring. Price had the one bad game, and just haven't seemed to bounce back quite yet. But given time, I'm sure that they'll be able to at least get steady enough to make the playoffs. I still think that they can take the division, but as Ron McLean said on the Steve Dangle podcast that he's not convinced that they'll even contend for a playoff position, so we'll see how that pans out. Other teams, the Colorado Avalanche, off to a shockingly good start. Probably not going to last. Still waiting to see Matt Duchene get traded. It's just such a messy situation. And it's gotta suck hearing, from one of your favorite players growing up that he thinks that you should be benched and traded, although I don't think that Duchene disagrees. I think at this point he's really looking for that trade. And he doesn't seem to have taken those comments personally. I think that he can recognize, and it's also an overseas comment, translated to English, and you can lose really important nuances when you're moving from one language to another, so how it's come across in that quote really may not be what Forsberg intended. From the sounds of it, Forsberg has reached out to Duchene, and Duchene has recently said on Hometown Hockey that, he'd love to play on a line with either Joe Sakic or Forsberg. So clearly, regardless of all of this, those are still 2 players that, at least as players, he really enjoyed. But I don't know. I think that at some point Joe Sakic's gonna have to realize that Matt Duchene may not be worth what he believes Matt Duchene is worth. I think he's a good player. I don't think that he's as elite as they want to make him out to be. I think that there are definitely teams that he makes better, but he needs good players around him compared to, those great players that make the other players around them better. But, he's a Team Canada guy, so clearly he is still considered to be one of the top players, because you don't make Team Canada if you aren't. But yeah, surprising that they haven't managed to get a deal done yet, and at this point I think it's going to take a little while to trade him, because teams have just finished setting their rosters, they're feeling out what they have, and you really don't want to make any big changes quite yet, because you want to see how your team's going to shape up with what you did in the off season. We'll see how he goes. I can't see him staying there for super long term, but you never know, he might. As if the team starts winning, that could completely change the attitudes, but at this point, considering the fact that he's refusing to even take questions, yeah, I don't think that's going to be a great situation that lasts long. Just really unfortunate how Colorado has handled that whole thing. And then one of the big shockers of this week, the Calgary Flames finally won in Anaheim. 29 losses, finally got a win. It was a 3-2 win. Nope, that was the wrong game. It was a 2-0 win for the Flames. Mike Smith with that shutout. Flames are looking not great on their Corsi, but that's got to feel great getting that monkey off of their back. And considering they have that win now in the regular season, if they face off against Anaheim again in the postseason, that could actually help to make a difference because you're not going in trying to get that first win on Anaheim ice in the postseason. You've already gotten it and finished with that curse in the regular season. And it's got to be a huge weight off of that team's back because that's been the running joke in the league for so long. Calgary actually doing the best of the R3 teams. Montreal currently doing the worst, and the Islanders really not faring that much better than Montreal. They just managed to take one of their games to a shootout, which puts them slightly ahead. Montreal's next game is against Toronto, so I don't see that being the game that they turn it around in, but you never know. Toronto has just been such a fun, high-scoring team to see this season, which everyone expected. Finally, last night, their perfect streak was broken by the Devils with that 3-6 victory for the Devils. Don't know how, good for the Devils for pulling that off, but Leafs outshot them 50-31, so that's all on the Devils' goaltending. But yeah, there are a few teams that are going to need to turn their seasons around pretty soon here, because once you get too late, really around American Thanksgiving, you start to look, and it gets a lot harder for these teams to come around and start to do better. So far, I think Vegas is one of the only undefeated teams. St. Louis is the top team in the league with going 4-0. The three teams that have yet to lose a game are the St. Louis Blues, Chicago Blackhawks, New Jersey Devils, and Vegas Golden Knights. With one loss are the Colorado Avalanche, Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Calgary Flames. So those teams will be good to see how they continue. Hopefully we can get some of the Canadian teams to start doing better. I'd like to see the Islanders turn around and start to improve. Columbus sitting around 12th in the league. And take a look, if the playoffs were tomorrow, Toronto would take the Atlantic. It'd be Tampa Bay versus Detroit, which is a matchup that's been seen a lot. Jersey would win the Metropolitan. Doubt that's going to stay that way. Pittsburgh would take on Washington. And you'd have the Jackets and the Sens in your wild cards. So 2 Canadian teams in the East and 2 in the West, with the Edmonton Oilers missing the playoffs as of right now. Of course, we're only 4 games into the season, so that will all change a lot over the next several months. And a quick look at our WHL stuff, because, oh god, there's so much time. Heading over to the WHL just for a quick peek. Sitting at the top of the league are the Victoria Royals, who lost their first game of the season last night, an overtime loss against Tri-City, which puts them at 7-1. Yet lost 4-5 against the Tri-City Americans in overtime. Starting to turn around in shots. At one point, they were getting outshot quite badly, but they're starting to even it out a bit. But sit number one in the league, number one in their division. Trying to take over from that are the still undefeated Swift Current Broncos. They are currently 7-0 to start their season. Barely getting outshot. They have had a pretty even-keeled start to the season. Their goaltending has been pretty solid. Quite frankly, their last game against the Hurricanes was kind of brutal to watch. Tons of penalties on both sides. They just happened to capitalize a bit more on their power play, but yeah, not great to see as a Canes fan. The Swift Current Broncos are currently ranked number 2 in the league, but that's just because the Victoria Royals took home that 1 point from their overtime loss yesterday. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you go over, starting their season 0-9 are the Kamloops Blazers. They have been outshot 312 to 301, and really have not done well so far. Haven't even taken a single game to overtime, don't have any points, sitting 22nd in the league. Gotta imagine that's starting to weigh on those guys. Hopefully they can pull out a win soon. And then for our Hurricanes fans that listen, the Lethbridge Hurricanes, after their last game, or as of right now, actually I believe that they sit 3rd in their division. And after their last game, they were 12th. As of last night's games, that'll have changed. I believe they should be somewhere around 13th. Let me just take a look. Nope, Lethbridge Hurricanes still sit 12th in the league. They have 194 shots for, 209 against. Have gone 3-3 to start the season. No overtimes. They have 6 points. And yeah, that 2-6 loss to Swift Current Broncos was not great. You know, it's really starting to show the fact that they can't stay out of the penalty box. You know, you gotta think if they could just stay out for a little while, that could make a big difference in their games. So hopefully those boys can find some discipline sometime soon. And then of course, the Canes' biggest rivals, the Mansonat Tigers, have taken over the division lead, sit 8th in the league, and are 4-3 to start their season. And then another big thing this week was the fact that the Pittsburgh Penguins went to the White House. And of course, given all the political stuff, that's considered to be, you know, it's been quite a controversial decision on their part. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't always have to be politically charged. They can be going there just out of, you know, tradition, and because regardless of who is in office, you know, that's part of being the Stanley Cup champions. And quite frankly, you know, we shouldn't expect everyone to go out and speak on every single topic that there is. And they don't have to have a strong position on Trump, on what's going on. There may be people who support Trump, there may be people who don't, and at the end of the day, that is their choice. And quite frankly, I don't want to deal with politics when I'm watching hockey. I watch hockey because I don't want to deal with the world. And I'd prefer not to deal with politics in my sports. I like it when those two things are kept separate, and I think there's a decent number of people who feel the same. You know, whether we like it or not, not everything has to be political. Some things are just this is what a team has decided to do, and we can't expect everyone to stand up for everything that people think. I think that's way too big of a deal made out of a hockey team going to see the White House. It isn't an endorsement, and if you look, there are tons of Russian hockey players who support Vladimir Putin or appear to, and at the end of the day, that is their choice. I think that it's crap how much the internet rips them for it. So good for the Penguins if that's what they want to do for continuing to go to the White House in spite of the fact that there was a lot of backlash over it. It was still entertaining to see that season opener for them where, they have the banner raising ceremony and get 10 goals scored against them, but they seem to have turned it around pretty well. I'm sure they'll have no problems this season and still be a pretty solid team. Other than that, Dallas, still too early to tell. Ben Bishop had a good night the other night. Good to see that he came back out after that hit to the head, or ice puck to the head, in that Vegas game. Because I think it's always concerning when you see a goalie pull his mask off and there's blood dripping onto the ice. Luckily, it turned out to just be a cut to the area above his eye. But good to see him back out. Kari Lehtinen still doesn't seem to be that solid for them. I'm still not convinced that they fixed their goaltending problems with Ben Bishop, but we'll see how he continues throughout the season. Other than that, games to watch this week. There are a few big games. The Avalanche, see if they continue to do well. Flames take on the Senators. You've got Rangers Blue Jackets all tomorrow night. Golden Knights are playing again as well. See if they can continue their streak. Always a fun game. Leafs play the Canadiens on Saturday. They have opposite records so far, so I'm sure Zach is hoping that they'll get a win. Other people he knows, I'm pretty sure, are hoping for the exact opposite. Let's see. Flames take on the Canucks. Always good to see those Canadian teams playing against each other. Other than that, Leafs Capitals should be a fun game to see. The Oilers will be taking on the Hurricanes. Canucks Sens. Those are all on Tuesday. But other than that, not a lot of huge games. I guess you've also got the Hawks taking on the St. Louis Blues, which is kind of a division rivalry. That'll be next Wednesday. And next Thursday, you'll get the Islanders taking on the Rangers. Always a great rivalry to watch. I know I'll be watching that game. So yeah, there's lots of good games coming up this week. Next week, I will not be doing the podcast, but Jay and Zach should have something up. Like Zach and Jay this week, I will unfortunately be busy. One of my classes extended late, so I will not be able to take part in the podcast. But there should still be something up for you guys. And I'm sure it'll be more entertaining, because having one person talk with no one to bounce off of isn't the greatest. But we'll see you guys next week, and be sure to light that lamp.